wind up as I sing, sing, sing. Upgrade you bitch like a first class ticket. Update the white big events for a bigger sign. Read between lines for our band and sniff them. I'm stupid, it's my crooked sense of humor.
Why have I gotta do all this for the end of the year? Fuck it. We're gonna go into number 10 with a Disney film, which is probably something I'm gonna hit myself in the morning for. It is Turning Red. That gibberish intro aside, Turning Red is my pick for animated film of the year, and I know you're probably thinking I probably should pick The Bad Guys or any other film that wasn't from Disney, but hear me out for just a split second here. Number one, I couldn't see The Bad Guys ahead of time because getting tickets in this day and age is a fucking hassle and a half, and your boy's got bills to pay, people he needs to get art from, and he has to set up some stuff including restarting an Indiegogo because he felt like he dropped the ball mad heavy. So of course money's gonna be a little bit on my brain a lot more than just seeing all the finest films right away. Number two, all of the other candidates that could have reached the number 10 spot came at the tail end of the year when I already solidified myself during late November, early December. So anything that would have counted itself into the equation has to then go through the rigorous process of being either one thing or another. So now that we got that whole stuff out of the way, why did I pick Turning Red out of every other animated film besides, of course, the honorable mention stuff of like Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio and The Bad Guys? First thing, it is a probably best apology era Disney film. If you guys do not know what I mean, wait till my new editorial for Perception of Faulty Medium to drop out what I mean about that shit right there. Number two, everything else I could probably look into for a family film about coming of age for the era, this was a decent enough choice for what I could pick out. I mean, yes, there's the Sea Beast, but I wasn't as attached to it as my lovely partner that you guys see on the screen. Isn't she gorgeous? And it wasn't as impactful as the other animated films that kind of went into my whole big perspective stuff right here. If we're talking about animated series, I mean, there's Cosmic Wonder, but that's a TV series, not a movie. Yet, I'm keeping my eyes on you, PM Seymour. I got my eyes on you, boy. So, from all that small stuff on that smaller enough scale, yeah, animation-wise, it's kind of dropped down to the 10 spot because we didn't have a lot of good animated movies this year. Yeah, there was probably the Key and Peele movie that dropped on Netflix, but it's not really my cup of tea these days because it's just, what if Tim Burton just had the Peele touch, but it didn't really hit as heavy as other stuff I could have looked into this year?
I'm just so sick of being perfect. I'm never gonna be good enough for her. Or anyone.
Alright, I'm coming at number 9. I got a little bit of a small secret for all of you. Number 1, I might be a British citizen next few years, so keep an eye out for me doing this voice a lot, just to piss all of you off. And 2, number 9 slot is a suspense film known as Arcane By. Probably one of the best Dark Horse films that came across my own airwaves. It's not really what I would say is the best or the worst film I could have ever seen from Britain. If anything, it's probably one of the greatest films I've seen Britain come out in the 2020s thus far, and it's only 2022. So, for this being a nice little slice of what's the protagonist, what's really the motivation for the villain, how the kill's gonna happen, what are the whole crimes afoot, all this and third thing, it's probably not the worst adaptation stuff they could have done for a murder mystery that probably happened in real life in Britain, but it's also probably the best example for what I could say for British cinema being at its best. Now, for all of you people wondering if I'm covering other British media that has come out through the folds, do not worry, I have an editorial coming for a certain British director that's up and coming that has kind of dropped the ball on their own TV program, but we will cross that bridge when it gets to it. Also, if you're wondering about some other stuff I'm going to be doing for the British cinema verite of sorts, they are on my notches here and there. Do not fucking worry. We will be addressing more British films. But in the meantime, here it is. I came by at number 9. Could have been a lot higher, but it's just there's certain elements about the story where it's not at its strongest. The first protagonist we get isn't really the best or brightest, and the second one, it's kind of just meh. Where the hidden protagonists throughout it all, we kind of rooting for more, but no real closure for what they're going through and whatnot. So, yeah, love the film, we'll probably watch it again, but it's not up there in my top 5 for the year, but number 9's not that bad, right? Right. You know, somebody that doesn't know me very well wanted me to do a freestyle rap to this, but everyone that knows me knows I stopped rapping when I was like 17 years old and my first mixtape didn't hit that well. So, we looking at crime and drama at number 8 with End of the Road. End of the Road is the first film that we've seen with Ludacris Bridges with Queen La Motherfucking Tifa sharing the exact same screen space on this whole family running into trouble with some very huge shit going on type of vibe, where it's just also settled in everyone's favorite kind of racist state of Texas. So, why is this at number 8 above Turning Red and I Came By? Well, firstly, if you guys do not remember me ever saying this in the hundreds of videos I've been doing on this channel, I feel like if I didn't unprivate some stuff, I'd be in the thousands by now. But my daughters are everything to me, as are my siblings. So everything in my found family and everything in my adopted children and my cat and my partner is like my whole life. This is just, I would put them above myself to where if they were in trouble, I'd risk it all, the same way that Queen Latifah's character as a widowed mom wants to do what she can for her kids, what she wants to do with her brother, who is going through a lot of weird shit at the moment. But then throwing in the criminal elements about when it comes to people trying to throw a lot of different dangers and real spooked up elements about real life consequences. It's a little bit on that whole fence that for a minority, it's a real danger. This is a film that really touches the nerve for a lot of people that's just like, why do I have to really relate to this? Because it makes me feel so motherfucking uncomfortable. So, on that whole vein of everything, it does get enough from me to be at my number 8 slot. My only thing is that it can't go a lot higher because, sadly, since this is a Netflix film, it suffers the same thing of like what I Came By and a few other Netflix movies I've seen this year come. They're restricted to do what they can from a company going through bankruptcy for the 100th time, and the budget behind it to where the good writing that could have been there is a little bit more restrictive than most. Is this a bad movie by comparison? Absolutely not. I'd watch this shit 100 times if need be, but it just doesn't feel like it's a complete film. And it's not the director's fault, it's not the cast and crew's fault. I still blame the distributor, which is Netflix. Will they probably do a better film with Queen Latifah and Chris Bridges later on? Probably. Will I watch that shit? Probably. Will I do a whole rap intro? Give it a fucking rest, Sean. I stopped rapping years ago. If you want me to ghostwrite for you, that's different, but we gotta get to number 7.
My bag! Give it back!
Kiss my ass!
Give me back my bag, you little thief!
This is probably going to be the only part of the video where you hear 3 different octaves of my voice. I'm probably going to need subtitles. Am I going to fucking do it? Nah, because it's only for this opening bit. So, punchline is the house.
Why do I need such an elaborate gag? I will tell you, audience. The House is probably one of the few films I started off this year automatically on the fence about, but when it came to the whole thing of stop motion, it was a bit of a tight squeeze, because I got news that my favorite director, Guillermo del Toro was doing Pinocchio, which I was gonna automatically put at this part of the list, but because it was coming at the tail end of the year and I didn't see a lot of stop motion films that just have that nice niche to it the same way that this film did, I was in a bit of a pickle. See, the house is 3 different stories into one, much like the opening joke I did of 3 different voices, haha! And I'm just over here like, okay, these 3 stories with odd things involving the visuals is not a bad anthology, which is the category I wanted to go with first. However, it still goes in the category of stop motion because it focuses on just using puppets for everything in a stop frame of each thing of just click, move, to then go into all the different things of the set designs, how to do stuff with different visual mediums to make sure it brings it all the way to light and pure focus on a several year trek. Because sometimes just doing the perfect stop motion takes you roughly 4 to 6 years if you're trying to make stuff super perfect. Or if you're doing the Henry Selick route, it can take somehow less time, probably because he is a god, but we'll not touch on that today. That's for the Coraline review in 2024. So, going into the whole big stretch about why it's only at number 7, stop motion is slowly dying and it's upsetting me. Which is why I'm advocating for more people to do it. It's probably why I'm going to be looking into some stop motion people for a film I've got in the works for the next several years. But that's a bridge I'll cross later. And the rest of it is just because, although the house is enjoyable to be on my top 10, later entries that I will say that could be honorable mentions or just stuff I've seen in the past kind of showcase that this is not the best that comes from stop motion mediums. This is good, but it's not top 5 good. But I still respect this film enough, especially after me and my entire team decided to do a few different things of trying to look into the whole featurette, and then me and my founding members and my partner decided to do some stuff in our ongoing stream series called Riffwave on twitch.tv/RisingGo Studios. That was a bunch of gibberish right there. Fucking who cares? This is my channel. I can do whatever the fuck I want. I'm kind of getting thirsty again. I just drank a huge gallon of water.
Time to get you home.
Am I gonna have to take this countdown any seriously at any point? Well, probably after I'm done doing 10 through 6. Mostly because, although I love a lot of these movies, sadly this movie only just squeezes in before it hits the top 5 for just one small reason. I saw it too late. And that, everybody, is Jordan Peele's Nope. Nope is probably gonna go in the history books for one of the few films that I would give an outstanding score for and then put on my shelf of movies I would put on repeat until the day I die. It's not as great as Us, mind you, because of certain subterfuges and certain things that I've come to really appreciate in my whole golden years in reviewing, because now I'm apparently an old man, because I have really started to appreciate watching 40s and 50s films now. No! The beauty about this whole film is that you can't really tell if the main focus is supposed to be on, of course, the horse trainers, the washed-up child actor, or just the monster itself. Not to mention the whole thing of spectacle and the whole entire thing of if you have been in the industry and know a few things, then you know the true evils that are really being decorated inside this entire film. God, I start to sound like I had too much sarsaparilla inside my jugs. Anywho, this whole entire film is probably going to be going down to my favorite sci-fi horror film, and that's even usurping that of Aliens. And I do love me Aliens, and a few other things about the xenomorphs, but even still, this is probably going to go down in my history books for that whole reason. But again, you're probably starting to think to yourself, why is this even in my top 10, and why is it only at number 6? Well, number 1, if you don't know, you don't know. And the only reason it's at number 6 is because numbers 5 through 1 have been so monumentally inspirational for what I'm doing now for all my whole scripting, all the stuff I'm doing for character building. I actually had to take half of the year off from even script writing to make sure I did everything justice, the same way these films did, to inspire me to do better. And now that I can finally stop doing the whole bitty bit for 10 through 6, can stop doing weird ass voices. So let's prepare ourselves for the top 5.
You set it up at least the right way, maybe I'm rich and famous for life. How you doing? You look pretty. It's like she got a big...
Coming in at number 5 for action adventure. If I can stop wrestling this goddamn envelope that doesn't exist because I already ripped it open hours ago. It is The Northman.
4 nominations this year, winning all 3.
The Northman, along with a whole different assortment of films that have started to get more film authentic as of late, is honestly a very fun ride. The action, the suspense, how they capture a lot of different scenes, the casting, the mood lighting of the natural aesthetic of the sun itself, along with the moonlight, campfires, everything almost being so authentic it seems almost as if the camera being there is an insult. This is golden when you're trying to do an authentic shoot. But here's the downside. The Northman may be probably one of the best films we've had come out in recent memory, along with The Lighthouse, The Witch, and certain other films that go across the anachronistic appeal to it all. But it also kind of suffers from this degree because some of the times we get golden shots of glory, but then it just gets so dark, you gotta have to get some night vision goggles to kind of see what's going on. Like, okay, I can barely make out what's happening, and that's just... It's not really a problem, it's just because we're so used to a lot of different lighting effects, a lot of different stuff with finished products in the cutting room floor to give us a lot more exposure. It's a little bit of a, we've been so used to what we've been doing in the silver screen that it's a weird adjustment. Will this be a thing in the future to where we gotta get better about it? Probably. Will this be a whole golden staple that we will probably embrace? Probably not. And so the big question now is, if I'm speaking this highly of this film off the bat, why is it only at number 5? Well, action adventure is not the top tier thing of what I focus on when it comes to films. I mean, it's kind of, but also kind of not. A lot of the things I love aren't really in the top 5. And that's going to be something I'll explain later. But taking away the genre bit of it all, The Northman just doesn't hit me in a personal note the same way that 4 through 1 do. It did help me do a lot of better things I'm trying to do with certain dream aspects I'm working on in my scripts, certain stuff I'm trying to do for era-appropriate things involving Vikings and all this, that, and the third thing, but it just doesn't hit the golden note in the ground I needed to evolve as a scriptwriter, as a avid author, and all the other things I am in this profession. But it did help in a certain degree for me to improve a lot better, if that makes sense to you guys. If it didn't, I got nothing. Y'all just on your own. Let's go to number 4. Coming in at number 4 from the romance genre, and also a candidate for anthologies. Getting a lot of those in recent years. 3,000 Years of Longing.
But she ran into the hands of the assassins. I was about to take them by force.
Now, I know a lot of you guys with pitchforks and torches are already ready to try and say I'm no longer a valid critic, but lay down your arms. You're all keyboard warriors anyway. You're gonna give out to atrophy of the muscle. Just lay down your arms. These are my picks for a reason, and number 4 is no fucking different. Firstly, this is a great modern interpretation about what 1001 Arabian Nights would have been, where the professor is obviously an Americanized Shirazade, with the genie in question being a bit of a replacement for the quote-unquote sultan that was kind of charged with killing the lady if she didn't have a compelling enough story. Arabian Nights is a weird book, but I've read it front to back enough times to have a better appreciation for it. Number 2, the romance isn't insulting, nor is it too far-fetched. Jinn have known to be, in both the Quran and parts of the Torah that were lost to history, to actually lay with humans to bring forth a brand new species of humanity. Whether or not you guys believe in that or not is up to you, because I'm not your parents, I'm not your pastor, I'm not your priest, I'm not your anything. I'm just a guy on the internet just trying to make a couple people laugh, cry, question stuff in general, and or probably think a lot better. And the third thing, a lot of detractors try to say that the pacing for this movie is abysmal, what they do is too god-awful, to which I have to just say, did we see the same film? And if so, point out to me all of the failings that you would qualify as bad for cinema. Was it just not your cup of tea because it didn't move as fast as you did? Or did it just strike you as bad because your taste buds don't run the same way as mine? Don't discredit it just because it's easier for you. Discredit it because it actually has scrutiny for all people to agree on. In that same vein, why is it only at number 4? And what did I really learn from this film to carry on as a scriptwriter / avid author? Well, it's only at number 4 because, one, if you guys know me at all, romance isn't my genre. It is very placated, and sometimes it's a little bit too gooey. And if you guys don't know what I mean by gooey, wait for the upcoming video this 2023 about my editorial about the romance genre. God, I got so much I gotta fucking do! But the only other thing about why it's at number 4 is because, although I love 1001 Arabian Nights, these stories that were told, yeah, they were good, but they weren't the gold standard for what I had growing up for an anthology series, where we were given Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, where we were given Aladdin and the Genies, because he had 2 genies and he was Chinese. About Sinbad the Merchant, Sinbad the Barbarian, not the Barbarian, the Sailor. Well, he could have been a barbarian in Dungeons and Dragons, now I'm thinking about it. About so many different figures from those stories in one consolidated book. It's a little bit of a hard act to follow, but that's just because I have really grown up on a lot of older books. Count of Monte Cristo, Journey to the West, 1001 Arabian Nights. Just to name a few. So that's just me harping on it from just an adaptation standpoint instead of it being a film. Just the stuff on the film is just that the ending seems a little bit too somber to be as hopeful as they intended, but that's more because life wants us to have the happy ending for romance. But we are always afraid of the ending of the story. It's why we don't like endings. It's the one thing that we all carry as a lesson for everyone. We all have to die at some point. Our stories have to end. And that's the sad truth. The thing that we don't learn is that our stories are never over if we've carried over enough chapters to bleed into other cast and crew members of our story to carry on. And that's the main thing about this appeal that kind of inspired me more as a writer for some stuff that I am doing for an Indiegogo for, involving a story like this. I'm carrying over an ongoing story in real life, just making it more fictionalized to be in a much grander capacity, but also kind of going in the same veil of their story will end someday. But why not just embrace the beginnings to know where the middles and end will come from how they started? Because it's better to know where someone is coming from and then build your story than just not at all. And that's something you can carry not only as a writer, but as a person as well. To which I'm gonna stop trying to give y'all life lessons and get ready to do number 3. God, why did I just dab? And thank God I'm not doing this with a webcam. There's no funny joke right now. We're in the top 3 where this is the bronze medal. It's the Batman.
I'm vengeance.
For the category of superhero films, I chose The Batman for, well, numerous fucking reasons. First reason I could think of was, one, this was actually DC films at their highest point in a long time. And I do mean a long fucking time. The Snyderverse is terrible. Like, so many wrong things. A lot of bad casting except for Gal Gadot and Henry Cavill as Superman, I guess. So every small bit of this was just a catastrophe from just the film aspect. But then enters Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne in his early years as the Dark Knight in a brand new Gotham where it is so grimy, so dark, and so dilapidated. It is almost like watching a brand new comic book series start from the very beginning on screen. It is a marvel to see this entire Detective Comics line story just unfold before a lot of different people that don't even really understand Bruce Wayne that well. You get to see him at his most brooding before he's just brooding for the sake of it. You get to see him where he's actually working with the GCPD rather than just trying to be overly confident vigilante. You get him actually to learn how to be the world's greatest detective by still leaning on others because he doesn't trust his own skill set. It is a great origin story without being the origins. Because we all know Bruce Wayne. We all know the Caped Crusader. We all know that he is vengeance. He is the knight. He is... Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. Now, all of those beautiful points I'm stating about why this is at my number 3 above many other superhero films, excluding one of our honorable mentions being Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, is honestly telling about how I'm getting more and more into the age of filmmaking where it has to mean something over just being flashy substance and actually has to carry over something of personal enjoyment rather than the crowd appeal. Because a lot of people do not see this movie as top 10 material because of the later editions and or editions I didn't even talk about for various reasons. But I'm not trying to detract from anything about any of the bad points that come with The Batman that don't put it in the numbers 2 or 1 spot. Firstly, it's just... this is coming from the late gate for DC films because although we have golden gems like the Joker movie and I guess the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, if you want to count those movies, and maybe if you're going to be going back in time to the Christopher Reeves Superman saga and the Tim Burton Batman timeline, we've had a lot of goods, but we've had so many bads that this was just kind of set up for failure, especially since it came out during the year of recovery from the pandemic. There is just so many different moving parts and pieces here that kind of set it up for failure in a lot of different avenues, but the biggest problem that came about was because so many individuals want to go buy so many different tabloids and just think of all these other things because of different rumors, different things taken out of context, different jokes being spun out of different avenues and different controls, that were kind of left with a film that had a damaged reputation before it even recovered up to get its money back and then some. Does this mean it was a bad venture? God, no. If anything, this taught me a lot of different things I could do for a hero storyline that I will be doing in the near future. Or I might be doing some stuff I'm writing up for my first ever animated film as we speak. You guys may never know because I've just been, like I said earlier in this countdown, taking some time off to reevaluate some stuff. With that all being said, why is this not at numbers 2 and number 1? Well, there's just a lot of better things in the first and second slot that kind of just put it way above The Batman. I know many people that put it at their number 1 slot for different reasons, and that's fine. You can love this film a great deal. I do. I would watch this shit again if I wanted to. In fact, I actually might rewatch this shit by buying the DVD and just burning out my PlayStation 4. But until that time comes, we gotta prepare ourselves for the last two movies I'm picking for the year. Okay, number two. So I was originally going to place another thing together, but then going back and forth, it just kind of fits, man. Number 2 for sci-fi action, it's Prey. Prey is the quintessential prequel film I loved and really wanted involving Predator. The Yakshas are just an interesting alien species, and watching them go toe-to-toe with the Native Americans during a very tumultuous time for them, although very, very depressing, was probably the linchpin in what I needed to just kind of see from a better hero's perspective about what was going to unfold next, how this technology get there, how the legends start, what was the real way of killing them back in the day before all of the guns and the Arnold Schwarzenegger. I can't even finish his last name because it kind of sounds like a slur, I'm sorry. So, it just kind of molds it all into a big, beautiful bouncy ball that kind of sells up a better appeal for everything that needs to be said, done, executed, and then unfolded like it's a beautiful blanket of glory and tasty plot, delicious details. And it's a beautiful ride from start to finish to where it honestly inspired a few things that are in the works for my independent company that we've been pouring into our upcoming SCPs we're unveiling year after year before we just kind of make our own SCP mini film. Like, it's an actual short film, basically, but more in an animatic style, but we're trying to introduce them increment by increment. But more on that later. Why is this at number 2 above everything else? Well, I would have put Nope a lot higher to be in this slot, but then the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like, Predator definitely hit in a different way than Nope did, even though it's something that I'm attached to a immense deal. Like, a lot of Jordan Peele's movies hit hard on a very personal and a former professional level that not a lot of films have done in recent memory. Don't get me started! But it just kind of hits a little bit deeper because the more you're diving into Prey to then go into the whole big timeline that is the Predator franchise, the more this also feels like it's a beautiful come-up story for a lot of individuals that wanted to be in the world and be engrossed in what's happening and just kind of get a better inclination about how to take charge of what your destiny is against a powerful opponent like the Predator. But why is it not number 1? Well, it's obvious. Number 1 was the hardest choice I had to make out of every year I've been doing this, even behind the scenes. If you guys saw what I did for every single countdown I did in private, this was my hardest choice because of a lot of great options there were for number 1. But the more it's been thought about, the more I've been trying to dive into certain things, the more it was supremely obvious and straight to the point about what it is that I felt was the greatest film of 2022. And before we get into that, I'm going to actually roll in all of the honorable mentions on screen.
That boy Kenza.
The number 1 film in the category of amalgamation cinema, meaning it had several different genres just wrapped into one to just make a cohesive, almost incoherently insane spiral. Everything, everywhere, all at once. This may be a huge shocker to a lot of people that know my taste at this point, but just follow me on this. There have been thousands of films that have come out across the globe this year. But, and this might shock you guys for me to say this, this is the one film on an international level that I actually not only respected, but drew the most from in how to approach a multitude of topics in a singular property, all in one. The amount of detail, the amount of great executions for certain stuff involving visual effects, as well as certain stuff with special effects, the stuff with musical cues, lighting, how the cast and crew was just chef's kiss. Yes, Michelle Yeoh was taking up a role that Jackie Chan was originally supposed to be, but who fucking cares? If anything to the equation is going to be stated, I feel like Michelle's inclusion towards this film actually elevated it to be a greater standalone feature than anything that could have happened if Jackie Chan took up the role. And there's a lot of more incredible things I could talk about, like, yeah, the humor in places can be a little strange. Just a little strange. But it's also not supposed to be just humor for everyone to understand. It's not an inside joke thing, it's just tailor-made to a certain crowd of people. There are certain individuals that want to say that it's a terrible movie with a lot of different things here and there that's just very blatantly stupid or trying to be a downgrade for cinemaphiles everywhere. But also, those are the kind of people I talk to, and they're just like, Avatar: The Way of Water was a great movie. And I'm like, did we watch the same fucking thing there, David? But it is what it is, I suppose. Now, why did I pick this as my number one film, aside from the stuff I just stated about it helping me on a writer's scale? Well, as a film critic as well as a audience member, this was the one movie I would have paid 1,000 tickets to watch it by myself on opening day the moment I caught eyes on it. This was the film that made 2022 for me in a great deal of a beautiful tapestry that I couldn't have it leave my mind. I've seen this movie at least 5 more times since I last saw it. I'm buying the DVD when I get my huge paycheck coming in soon. I am going to be doing a lot with this feature. This movie was that good to me that I had to make this whole motherfucking thing on that pedestal the more I kept looking into it. There were a lot of great candidates. There was Hellraiser 2022. There was, I believe there was a Stephen King adaptation that almost made it onto the list. There were so many different things. Hell, even both Prey and The Batman almost inched themselves up to be in the slot where Everything Everywhere All at Once was. And there were a couple of movies I wanted to look at this year that could have taken the coveted spot themselves. But the more I kept looking into this stuff, the more I'm also like, this film evokes a lot out of people, but I feel like that's also the reason there's so much hate behind the film. The fact of the matter is, the multiverse itself does exist because of choice, and we make choices every day. Do we do this? Do we do that? Do we meet this person? Do we meet that person? Do we embark on this venture? Do we embark on that venture? Do we fall in love with this person? Do we fall in love with that person? And the multiverse kind of spreads from there to then just showcase what is and what isn't a true timeline. Are we living in the true timeline now, or are we living in a different one that's opposite to another thing? Multiverse theory is a very strange thing that only certain things can be made into a construct that can be done right. Not looking at you, Marvel, because you fucked up. But as it stands, this film not only showcases the beauty that is multiverse theory done right, but it showcases a lot of things about how choice does matter. How family is truly something that you have to build on and understand in a greater capacity than what you genuinely try to say you understand with. You can sit across from your child, your niece, your nephew, your grandchild, your significant other, your parents, your grandparents. You may never really know where their choices lead into or how their choices were made on their own personal journeys. But it doesn't detract from the fact of you will walk those same paths with them, but their roadway along those paths are going to be different. The fact of the matter is, you still need to put in that best step forward to be with them hand in hand. You can't always expect the same pathways to be the same thing that you want in your own life to be the same as theirs, because then it's no longer a journey for them. You're just pigeonholing them to be your make, your model, what you want to see in the world, rather than seeing it from how they can grow. There were so many different lessons in a multitude of a neatly fastened cube of symbolism, tropes, and a lot of different deep dialogue when you actually think about it that does hit a lot of different resonances and symbolism as well as pure execution that honestly elevate this film in a different avenue than, well, a lot of movies I can really talk about on this countdown, and probably will be talking about in my top 10 movies of the decade. Will this probably change with time? I don't know. Time is a weird construct. Time is gonna be weird at every angle. But I'm still gonna love this movie. And I hope you guys enjoyed my whole entire countdown for the top 10 films of 2022. Maybe some of the stuff in the 6 through 10 category will be changing with time. I don't know. But my top 5 will always remain my top 5. So if you guys want to see some more critical stuff I've done, I got 2 playlists right on the screen right here. If you guys want to see my partner do some stuff, we got BAM! Stuff right over here with her shows. And maybe we got a brand new channel coming up soon in the small little boxes right there. Either way, it has been your boy V. I've been your uncle. I've been your best friend. I've been that man across the table you kind of want to pick a fight with, but then lose anyway because he's a dangerous bastard. And I will see all of you lovely little nomads, party people, and strangers everywhere across the internet in my next videos for 2023. Have a good one. Stay safe, stay beautiful, stay stylish, and keep being great people.
I'm on a different type of time, oh. Don't be scared, it's a black thing. No, I walk around with a different type of pride, oh.